It's Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Kevin Carr.
And this is It's Movie Time.
It is time for movies.
And anytime you talk about movies, somewhere lurking way in the shadows is Citizen Kane.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because
I've heard of that.
whatever you say, it's not going to be anybody's favorite film. I like the adjective, the most influential film of all time. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think you could say it. The most influential film that isn't overtly racist. You know, because Birth of a Nation is incredibly influential.
Very good.
But horribly racist. There's just a little bit of racism in Citizen Kane.
Well, anyway, we're talking about Mank.
Yes.
Short for Herman Mankiewicz.
Yes.
The putative writer. Well, let's say he did write Citizen Kane, but the authorship is part of this film.
Yeah.
And what's worth seeing in this film, Kevin?
Well, it's a David Fincher film, and it's on Netflix. So it's once again another big director who's moved into a streaming service for distribution, which I think is as significant as the movie.
Okay.
Because Fincher was one of those on the very much for the theatrical experience, and doing something through Netflix I think is impressive. But it's I think his father wrote the script actually.
Yeah.
But it's his deconstruction of Herman Mankiewicz's involvement in Citizen Kane, which was monumental. And one of the things I find most interesting about it is how little of a role Orson Welles actually has in the movie.
Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. And that's as it should be.
Yeah.
Because he would dominate.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to see Mankiewicz. And Wells appears now and then.
Yeah.
But this exactly was
maybe like 10 minutes of screen time.
I know.
That.
With a great voice.
Yes. Yeah, he does a great Wells.
I know he does.
But yeah, I mean, and that's important because for so long it is just it's so tied to Orson Welles. It's neat to see a movie that deconstructs it without. Well, his influence is there. His shadow is always lurking over everything.
Well, Fincher is as much interested in bringing back somehow the 30s and 40s of Hollywood at its great time, and I don't think he's. I think he's bringing it back in the spirit of it with a lot of the technical things that happened at that time, like hollow sound.
Sure.
And, but in the end, I think it's a reminiscence rather than a duplication. That's
absolutely correct. You're absolutely right.
Okay, yeah.
Because he shoots it like Citizen Kane. You've got the black and white.
Yes.
You got some high contrast light. You've got the booming Bernard Herrmann type soundtrack.
Yes.
And you got the sort of it being told out of time, out of sequence.
Yes.
Which was one of the innovations of Citizen Kane.
Yes, right.
itself. But one of the things that they kind of, I don't know, I took issue with it is I'm like, if he's going to go all in, now, you can't shoot on the same film stock, but there were shots where you're like, well, that's clearly digital. That's clearly shot digitally. That doesn't have the contrast exactly. He goes about halfway with some of the sort of the visual homage to Citizen Kane.
Yeah, at one point I thought he was both evoking the era and then evoking Citizen Kane. And I didn't know which one was which. After a while, I began to realize he was just using some of the tech. If he uses a deep focus somewhere, okay, we got that.
Yeah.
If he uses black and white, okay, we got it. If he got hollow sound, okay, we got Citizen Kane. Yeah. But beyond that, it's a story of Hollywood at its apex and Hollywood on the dirty inside of Hollywood.
And how intricately intertwined with Hollywood Mank was.
Yes.
You don't remember. You maybe have heard the name. Mankiewicz, you may have heard that here and there. But you hear Orson Welles, you immediately know who it is. But you forget how tied up in Hollywood he was. And, it's almost this decadent fantasy of this guy who just slobs around and gets drunk all the time and goes to parties. And you're like, well, that looks fun. I wonder if I could do that,
And you're right. I'm glad we didn't get too much more of his drunkenness, since that always gets to bore me after a while.
Yeah.
But he was a notorious drunk. He was also a friend of William Randolph Hearst, who was the object of Citizen Kane.
Which, too much to Kurt's chagrin.
Oh, yeah.
The movie came out.
And whether he was the court jester at all of his parties is questionable. And which is my point about Fincher, is that he is taking a lot of liberty with the history. And in fact, would you say he Fincher's point is that Mankiewicz wrote almost the entire script.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I've heard that that's relatively
that's- yeah,
accurate.
yeah.
That he wrote the script and then Mankiewicz came in Wells came in and tinkered with it and decided how to do. I mean, I would never call Citizen Kane not Orson Welles' movie because it absolutely
sure it is, yeah.
But was he there at the Genesis print on page? I don't know.
Yeah, and that I just find that so fascinating because they had an agreement, a contractual agreement, that Wells would be listed with him as a co-writer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I think goes back to the early days working with Mercury.
With Mercury, right? Yeah, and that Mankiewicz wanted recognition because he realized he had written the best film script ever. Yes, I think so.
Well, especially when you look at it, it's so weird because I gotta say, Citizen Kane's not my favorite movie of all time.
I don't. It's not really not mine either.
I respect it more than I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I recognize its place in film history. And when you look at it, with 1940 was when it came out. It's easy to look at it now and say, well, it's not all that innovative. But in 1940, look at the movies around it, leading up to it, and it was innovative with how it told the story and how groundbreaking it was. Here we are 80 years later looking at it. We've had 80 years of cinema that has built on that.
Yeah, and and Orson Welles as the Wunderkind, supposedly of film, at 24 years old.
Yeah.
All he needed to do was to hire Greg Toland, the best cinematographer in Hollywood.
Sure.
Things like that when he was giving carte blanche by RKO to come out and do a film.
Yeah. This reminds me a little bit of last year's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh yes, of course.
Where Quentin Tarantino just kind of built this
Yes,
sandbox
right, yeah.
and played in it for about 2 hours.
Yes.
And I'm not, I think there was less playing going on in this film, but it was certainly, he certainly had his Barbie dream house of 1930s Hollywood. And I think you get more of a story with what Fincher does, but it is Fincher sort of playing around, and you're right, not with how it really was, but
Oh yes.
the memory of how it really was.
Yes. I guess in the end, why would anybody who doesn't love Citizen Kane or appreciate Citizen Kane or even know us, why would a person see this film?
Oh gosh, well I mean obviously first off you're right. For somebody, the key audience are people who love Citizen Kane and want to see how that piece of sausage was made. But I think if you have any interest in old Hollywood,
good.
I think it certainly is interesting. I think you have to have an interest in how the workings of Hollywood is, because it is a little bit of navel gazing going on. But I would say more than anything, kind of just the performances. It's fun, even if you don't know what's going on, you don't understand anything. It's not just for Gary Oldman, who does a great job, but like Amanda Seyfried doing a great job as Mankiewicz's,
Marion Davies,
Hearst girl.
Yeah.
She's
I think
great,
it is, yes, her best.
I think Lily Collins has a very small yet understated performance. Who plays his wife in this? It's Poppy Middleton.
Oh, right.
She does a great job in it. And,
Yes.
And so I mean they've got a lot of great performances in this movie, and I think it's absolutely worth seeing for that.
Tuppence Middleton.
Yes, Tuppence Middleton. It's like that and Benedict Cumberbatch are the two Britishest names ever.
Well, look, if you have an inkling of Hollywood history, or if you're interested in it, I mean, you've got people like his brother Joseph Mankiewicz, Louis B. Mayer. These are names you may have heard before. John Houseman, some people have even seen on TV. David O. Selznick.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the great names, and the difficulty is that you can't give them a whole lot of prime time in the movie.
No.
And they come in and out, and you could object to superficiality.
Well, you know what's funny is I think I talked about this last year when we talked about Judy. They had Louis B. Mayer in that movie. Very different portrayal. Still sleazy, but you had a very different portrayal.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you have to look through the Hollywood's lens on itself and see what the people in the industry took from things.
Oh. Kevin Carr, the movie is Mank.
Yes.
What grade do you award it?
I'm going to award it a B+.
Oh, my God, I'm so glad to be so close to you. I'm going to do an A-. I can pull myself out of the sentimentality about Hollywood and Citizen Kane. It's a setup for me. And seeing it, it's visually beautiful,
Mhm.
it sounds great,
Yeah,
and it's Netflix.
yeah.
So you almost could call this free.
If you're already paying for the fee, if you're already paying the fee, it doesn't cost you anything more.